First of all, the chairman of the Foundation Day lecture, Professor M.S. Thank you for your very generous introduction. Today, we have past presidents of the Academy, Professor R.B. Singh, great pleasure to see them here, Dr. Punjab Singh, Dr. Mahapatra. We also have many distinguished fellows of the Academy. It will take long if I go on mentioning the names, but on the dais we have two vice presidents, Dr. P.K. Joshi and Dr. B.S. Dillon. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It was mentioned that in 1990, on this day, this academy was established. So 36 years ago, we formed it, and today is also World Environment Day. So it was purposely established thinking that it is our World Environment Day, and environment security should also be taken care of. When it comes to the opportunity given to me today to speak in honor of my guru, well-wisher, and also the one who guided all through, I thought I must speak today with regard to his major concern relating to farmers' prosperity. So today's topic is from farm security to farmers' prosperity. There are moments in the history of nations when one individual makes a change, not merely in policy, but also in destiny. In the mid-60s, when I had joined IARI for my PhD, India stood vulnerable, dependent, and uncertain of its ability to feed its own people. At that defining moment, science found a statesman, agriculture found a visionary, and India found a great son of India and Professor M.S. Swaminathan. Millions today know him by name, and millions eat today because of his life's work. Professor Swaminathan was not merely an architect of India's Green Revolution. He was, in fact, the conscience keeper of Indian agriculture. He made our head high. As was mentioned by Dr. P.K. Joshi, he would often remind us if agriculture goes wrong, nothing else would have a chance to go right. Today, as India moves towards becoming a Viksit Bharat, those words echo with greater urgency, calling for a renewed resolve, bold actions, and a transformative new strategy towards evergreen revolution, which must aim towards productivity in perpetuity without ecological harm. It is because the challenges before us have fundamentally changed. we had successfully met the first national mission on how to feed India. The next national mission before us is how to make the farmer secured, how to make our farmer first. Hence, while agricultural past revolutions, be those green, white, blue, and rainbow, succeeded in achieving food security, the next revolution must lead us to farmers' prosperity. This memorial address is therefore not merely a tribute to Bharat Ratna Professor M.S. Swaminathan, but rather an invitation to all of us to shape our future, which is rooted in farmers' prosperity, that is how to make him first. When we think of it, we are aware that Swaminathan's legacy had been science with human face. Let us therefore briefly reflect on the magnitude of the legacy. In the 60s, India faced recurring food shortages, dependence on imports, when we had no foreign exchange to buy, and fears of famine. Through scientific innovation, political will, institutional support, and extraordinary farmer participation, which all were considered as cradles of success by Dr. Norman Borlaug, India could transform itself into a food-secure nation. On the contrary, Professor Swaminathan's efforts never confined to increasing yields alone. His deeper philosophy and concern had been that science must serve the humanity through physical access to food. Productivity must reduce poverty through economic access. Equity cannot be ignored. Therefore, we must have ecological access. And above all, agriculture must remain humane, feeding all those below poverty line, thus serving science with human face. Long before sustainability became a global slogan, he warned against excessive exploitation of land, water, and agrobiodiversity resources. Economic Survey of India also had been raising this concern lately. He thus proposed the idea of evergreen revolution. In other words, productivity in perpetuity without ecological imbalance. India, the agriculture paradox today is of success and stress together. When we talk about the new India, what usually comes to our mind? Technology hubs, bustling startups, drones on the field, or rockets heading into space, right? But a massive revolution had been happening that rarely makes the frontline headlines. It's greater, it's deeper, and it's the bedrock of everything else we could build. It is happening out in our fields. Think about this. In 25-26, which means last crop season, India produced 376 million tons of food grains. That is nearly 19 million tons more than the previous year, which we never had ever imagined. Imagine what we always talk proudly of landing men on moon, but undermine that we had landed 6 decades ago on farmers' fields to feed our burgeoning population. This is the kind of headline that should echo louder across the nation now. And I consider that NAAS be the institution to bring forth this message much more clearly before the nation. It isn't a matter of national pride that India has become now the world's #1 producer of rice, though we have more area under rice, which should also be reduced. But we have overcome China. Our rice production has just crossed a historic 154 million ton. That number isn't just a data point. It represents sweat. It represents late nights, scaling of innovation, and the sheer grit of millions of farmers who wake up before most of us open our eyes. This isn't an off fluke either. Look across the entire landscape. Wheat production has climbed past 120 million tons. We hardly were thinking to cross 100 million tons when we organized a national congress about a decade ago. We are certainly poised to become #1 in wheat production in the next 1 decade. Maize has hit a record-breaking 55 million ton, a jump of more than 5-fold since year 2001, when single-cross maize hybrids were bred by our scientists in India and released, and also were introduced by multinationals from abroad. Even in oilseeds, where we have heavily become dependent on imports, we are moving towards independence back, pushing past 43 million ton with record yields of groundnut and mustard. Groundnut taking first place once again, beating soybean, which had been occupying first position for last few years. And in case of pulses, the very cornerstone of our nutrition security, we are steadily on a rise. You see here that almost 2 million tons in pulses we have increased in this year alone, or last year alone. And we are making progress in other commodities like milk, eggs, fruits, vegetables, fish, especially prawn, and all these are mind-boggling. These aren't isolated successes. This is a systematic upgrade in how we farm, transforming slowly our agriculture into national confidence. Why does it matter so deeply now? Because at the end of the day, agriculture isn't about commodities. It is about dignity. It is about the profound pride of knowing that a nation of over 1.45 billion can confidently nourish itself. Behind every single digit in these data is a real human story. It is a father staring at the unpredictable sky, a mother calculating the cost of inputs, and a family taking massive gamble on the earth and winning. It is an entire ecosystem learning, adapting, and growing together. So, perhaps the question we should be asking ourselves today is not just how much food did India produce. Instead, let's ask, how can a nation truly back the hands that feed it? In fact, we must recognize that beneath this success lies a troubling paradox. The paradox that how to make our farmer more secure. The farmer must toil the land and feeds the nation, often remain economically insecure on account of declining profitability, shrinking land holdings, deteriorating soil health, depletion of groundwater, rising climate risk, nutritional insecurity, and growing disinterest of youth in farming. Climate change is no longer a future threat to Indian agriculture. It has already entered our farmers' fields. Heat stress, erratic rainfall, including flash floods, new pest outbreaks, and water scarcity in rural India are all seen before our eyes. The crisis before us, therefore, is no longer merely agricultural. In fact, it is ecological, it is economic, it is nutritional, and increasingly socio-economic, creating two India according to Nobel laureate Dr. Amartya Sen. Because agriculture in India is not merely an economic activity, it is a way of life on which 46 to 50% of our people still depend. Hence, a central question which arises before us is what makes a farmer prosperous? As we look forward, we must now ask, what does a truly developed agricultural system should be to make farmer prosperous? Surely, it cannot be measured only by the production statistics. A Viksit agricultural system has to ensure sharing of good knowledge without any dissemination loss, reduction on cost of inputs, improved input use efficiency, linking farmers to market, both internal and external, sustainability for natural resources, resilience against climate risks, and dignity for farming profession. Our expectation from future farmer beyond just annadata is therefore he or she must now be poshandata because of security with regard to nutrition. I will come to it later. And urjadata, a jal samvardak, and a climate steward. This certainly demands a fundamental reimagining of Indian agriculture with policy reorientation away from subsidies to incentives for adoption of good agronomic practices, including environmental services, and from traditional agriculture away to secondary and specialty agriculture. Thus, we have to now see at the 5 pillars for reimagining Indian agriculture. In that context, the first pillar is from production to post-production for farmers' prosperity. For decades, our success metric had been yield per hectare. The next era must measure income stability, value addition, risk reduction, and dignity of farm households. We know that a farmer just cannot remain the backbone of the nation while remaining economically fragile. We must therefore move from production-centric approach to income-centric initiative, from subsidies to incentives for smart farming, from fragmented markets to integrated value chains, avoiding exploitation by the middleman. Hence, acts such as Essential Commodity Act, APMC Act, Contract Farming Act, Seed Act, National Food Security Act, Manrega, etc. must be revisited on priority. According to Niti Aayog, where Professor M.S. had been working for last more than a decade, I must compliment him that poverty has declined from 29% in 2014 to almost 12% in 2023. But the poverty figures vary from state to state. Thus, 16 to 20 crore under poverty line we do have, but we see that National Food Security Act distributes food to 67% of population, that is 80 crores, 4 times higher, almost 50 million tons annually, which I think requires to have a true relook by policymakers. Farmer producer organizations, self-help groups, cooperatives, agro-processing, rural enterprises, and digital market access must become now the engine of prosperity. India's flagship central sector scheme, launched in 2020, had a target of 10,000 farmer producer organizations by 27-28, which we seem to have already achieved, and it has now been revised to double the figure. We understand around 56 lakh farmers have already been mobilized, consisting of 22 lakh women farmers. And women farmer alone FPOs registered are currently about 1,175. Compared to 14 crore households, this number looks dismal. And hence, an aggressive approach is warranted to ensure farmers' prosperity. Pillar 2, climate smart agriculture. The Green Revolution in the past had solved major problem of food scarcity. The next revolution must now ensure agricultural sustainability. We now need to produce more with less for more through resource conservation and improved efficiency, aiming at using less water, less land, less energy, and lowering emissions. Innovations are all available to achieve this, but what is required is to accelerate scaling of these innovations for benefit to the end user. This would require a paradigm shift towards climate-resilient crop varieties, diversification towards local food systems, millets, pulses, and oilseeds, precision irrigation and ban on flood irrigation, regenerative agriculture, and integrated farming systems. We know that the future belongs to the nations that can align productivity with ecological stewardship by scaling faster technological innovations, requiring enabling policy environment and faith in science. I underline faith in science. Pillar 3, technology with inclusion. There is no doubt that the next agricultural revolution will certainly be data-driven. That is digital agriculture, making use of artificial intelligence, remote sensing, precision agriculture, genomics, such as genetic engineering, genome editing, and digital advisory systems. To harness these, agri-startups are transforming possibilities, but technology without inclusion can deepen inequality. Thus, we must focus on disruptive innovations. Disruptive innovations such as those we had during Green Revolution time, like dwarf wheat and rice varieties. For fiber revolution, we had GM cotton, and now for maize revolution, single cross maize hybrids. Conservation agriculture, which has all the scope to take care of our dryland areas, has all the possibility to move forward with. Protected cultivation, we seem to be making headway, but are much behind compared to countries like China. Micro-irrigation. Micro-irrigation, we have achieved about additional 12 million hectare of area, around 6 million under the drip and 6.7 million under sprinkler, but much more can be still accomplished. India must ensure that artificial intelligence does not become artificial exclusion. We also must ensure that policy decisions for scaling of innovations are science-based. Technology must democratize opportunity for smallholders, not concentrate advantage for a few, hence reaching the unreached and making drylands from gray to green must be now our priority. Pillar 4, from calorie to nutrition security. Despite surplus production, malnutrition and micronutrient deficiencies do persist. I see Professor V. Prakash with us here. All the life he has been talking and addressing this concern. This is a profound contradiction and currently our biggest challenge. Nutrition for our malnourished children, according to National Family Health Survey number 5, held during 2019 to 2021, India has 35.5% of 120 million children under 5 years of age as malnourished. This is just unacceptable. Of these, 33% are stunted, reflecting chronic hunger. How can really we keep our head high? World's largest absolute burden of child malnutrition is therefore in India today, whatever you may say. Hence, globally, maximum challenge of achieving zero hunger, that is Sustainable Development Goal number 2, is before India to be met. According to World Health Organization, our global health index is still dismal. Agriculture must now shift from feeding populations to nourishing children, especially our children who are needing the food, and not food, it should be a food for good health and immunity. In this context, we must diversify our food basket around local food systems, because our food basket has narrowed down substantially, so that it provides immunity, including use of millets, nutri-cereals, pulses, especially soybean, which has 40% protein compared to all legumes. Agriculture and public health systems such as newly initiated Sehat program by ICR and ICMR be taken up as a national mission on priority. In fact, the future of Indian agriculture must reconnect soil health, plant and animal health, human health, and planetary health. That means leading to one health and one globe. The final pillar here is youth, including women, as leaders of change. No agricultural transformation is possible without social transformation and improvement in our Social Development Index. We had organized a meeting, Dr. Joshi and myself, how to achieve sustainable development goals almost a decade ago. And it came out very clearly that Social Development Index in those states which have been left behind the Green Revolution period requires high priority and attention. Bihar, Eastern India, Northeastern India. Thus, farmer of India is increasingly a woman. I am really sure about it. The future farmer in India will be more of women. Thus, empowering them is an urgent national priority. Yet our policies, institutions, and ownership system often fail to recognize her adequately and equip women for decision making. Recently held Global Conference on Women for Agri-Food Systems, inaugurated by Honorable President Murmu, came out with the Delhi Declaration, which strongly recommended that women farmers need urgently access to land, credit, extension, technology, decision-making, and market opportunities. Given these, women can help increasing agricultural productivity by 15 to 30%, as also claimed by FAO. Equally important is attracting youth back into agriculture, not as subsistence worker, but as agripreneurs, innovators, extension agents, input providers, technology leaders, and above all, the job creators. In this context, reimagining our KVKs now to knowledge, skill, innovation centers is urgently warranted. In true sense, agriculture must become aspirational, again, through greater motivation and attraction of youth in agriculture, a dream that Professor Swaminathan and most of us had really wanted to be realized. Then, institutional reforms are critical for next revolution because all these would need institutional support, policy support. And as Dr. Borlaug said, Green Revolution, the cradles had been policy support, institution, human resource, and progressive farmers. So institutions such as Indian Council of Agriculture Research, the state agricultural universities, and the private sector organizations, all as a strong NAAS. I don't see any other strong NAAS in the developing world compared to what we are today, must lead to the next transformation with renewed vision and purpose. We all know science once powered India's food security. It must now power farmers' prosperity. This is what I have been always emphasizing. कि भारत कृषि प्रधान देश तो रहा है, पर हमने कृषक को प्रधान नहीं बनाया. We must therefore need mission-oriented research and delivery, not only mission for the name of mission, but targeted with outcome delivery and monitoring, interdisciplinary science aiming towards innovations. Time has gone when we were working in silos. Stronger extension system, public system has weakened, but we need to strengthen extension delivery through private sector. Young entrepreneurs, young farmers. Climate intelligence and climate smart agriculture. Lot of opportunities are there. Time would not permit me to expand. And closer collaboration by breaking silos between central and state government. Agriculture is a state subject, and therefore decisions taken at center hardly gets implemented in many cases. So we also require public institutions, private enterprises, startups, and farmer organizations. Also, the institutional reforms such as establishment of Agriculture Development and Farmer Welfare Council on par with GST Council, so that decisions on issues such as water, seed, fertilizer, energy can be taken in the best interest of India and Indian farmers. National and State Farmers Commission, we have commission for women, backward classes, scheduled caste, but for farmers, we don't have. Why can't we have that? And enhanced funding of ICR and SAU, rather doubling it, which we had been arguing, are the critical requirements to make Indian farmer prosperous. Otherwise, he will not be able to become real happy as we otherwise want him to be. So, vision for India's future. When we look at and celebrate the 100th year of independence, let us envision villages transformed into vibrant bioeconomy hubs, farmers functioning as knowledge entrepreneurs, every farm becoming climate resilient, every drop of water valued. We have not valued our water, that's why we have wasted, and we are flooding, which practice should be stopped. Our soils made healthy, not taking care of our soils, and their health is a major concern, mainly in the green revolution belt, and agrobiodiversity to be well conserved, because this is going to provide us the sustainability for future in agriculture. Every child becomes nutritionally secure, I have already mentioned, and every farmer lives with dignity and respect that he deserves. Let the world say, India did not merely feed its people. India showed humanity how agriculture can coexist with ecology, equity, and sustainability. And that India is a global leader in making farmer first. That, according to me, would be the best tribute to Professor Swaminathan. So in closing, let us look at our collective responsibility. As the reminder, as we remember Professor M.S. Swaminathan today, we must remember that great scientists do more than just generate knowledge. They enlarge the moral imagination of nations. Professor Swaminathan taught us that agriculture is ultimately about human dignity, farmers' dignity. Therefore, not merely crops, but farming systems, not merely production, but post-production, not merely growth, but harmony between humanity and nature. the ultimate test of India's progress will not only be the size of our economy or the quantity of grain in our warehouses or the food that we export. Currently, India occupies fifth position in agricultural export, fetching around $55 billion. But see, countries like Brazil, United States, of course, is number one. Countries like China, of course, again a large country. So United States, China is left aside. Countries like Brazil, Indonesia is even higher than us. And many of the other countries are wanting to compete. But we have to see whether we can scale this fifth position to at least that of third after United States and Brazil. Can the Indian farmer live with dignity, security, and prosperity is my last concern. If we can achieve that, we will truly honor the legacy of our beloved Professor M.S. Swaminathan. And perhaps then, India will not only become a Viksit Bharat, it will make farmers prosperous and agriculture more secure and sustainable. A unique example for the entire world. Finally, let me compliment National Academy of Agricultural Sciences for instituting this memorial lecture in the name of our beloved Professor Bharat Ratna, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, and giving me the opportunity to deliver this before you today. Thank you and Jai Hind.